Dear God, thank you for this day. Please help me to focus on what I've read, focus on your word, push out all distractions within me. Forgive me my sins, cleanse me of all righteousness. Let the meditation of my heart and the words that come out of my mouth be holy unto you. Amen. And thank you for your Son who died on the cross for us. For you sending that so we can have that freedom. For the story of the Marys, all of them. Your mother, Mary Magdalene, Mary's sister, Martha. Thank you for those stories, for those testimonies. Thank you for the thief on the cross. Thank you for me, beside all my shortcomings, you still love me. And you still mold me. Thank you for the YouTube channel. Thank you for anyone who sees these videos. Amen. Good night, peculiar people. It is Christian Stereotype here. This is about night 4 or 5 for me. Well, for anyone wondering why the uploads are kind of slightly odd or inconsistent, well, one, I'm bad at consistency. That's something I'm working on, and I don't know if you can see this, but I'm gonna try and you cannot see that. Okay, so I started doing this on February 1st. That was the first time I just decided for myself, or Jesus, the Holy Spirit talked to me and said, what would happen if you started reading the death and resurrection of Christ before you go to sleep? And I thought, okay, that's a cool idea. And I just felt compelled by the Holy Spirit to start recording that. And I was really tired. I was like, I don't want to do it, but I did it anyway. And that was on a Thursday. And it was on also the 1st of February. So I haven't been doing this since Monday. It started on Thursday. And so I had read on Thursday and recorded on Thursday. I read on Friday, but I didn't record because it was late. I didn't want to wake anybody up. I'm trying to go to bed earlier, but that so far has not been working out. I read Saturday and recorded, and I read Sunday and recorded. I skipped Monday and Tuesday. Monday was once again really late, and I didn't want to wake anybody up. And Tuesday, it was also really late. I had started listening to the Bible, to Matthew's account, and I fell asleep listening to it. So that didn't quite work out, but it was nice falling asleep to the Bible. And today is Wednesday, so I've been reading it every night since Thursday, but I've only recorded 3 times. And today is Wednesday, so this is actually night 7 for me. Wow. So it's been good spiritually, because like I said before, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but no matter what happens during the day, if I'm doing this, I end up coming back to Christ. And that's good when you feel down about yourself, or feel you're not good enough, or confused on certain doctrines or anything. You still, at the end of the day, despite all that, end up coming back to Jesus. So you guys should. I don't know who's watching this. I don't know if it's just the 2 people who at my old church know, or if anyone else is actually checking these out. But if you should try it and tell me how it is reading the life and the death, and resurrection of Jesus before you go to sleep. I'm trying to do this like right before I go to bed. Otherwise, I'd just do it randomly in the day, and uploads would be slightly easier. But on to, I had read Matthew's account twice and read Mark's today. I'm not sure if I really recorded Matthew's account all that much, so I'll probably go back to Matthew's account tomorrow just to read it again. But I felt the Holy Spirit telling me to read Mark's account, but we'll go over all the accounts overall. Just starting from memory, something I've neglected to talk about or put off. I put it off for a while for whatever reason. Is the story of the Mary who washed Jesus' feet. And I'm not sure if this is the same Mary who was caught in adultery. I almost want to say no, because this one was a prostitute, and it wouldn't really be a big deal for a prostitute to be caught in adultery because, well, she's a prostitute. But so she washes Jesus's feet, and you know, if you've never heard the story, that one of the disciples, I think it was most of them, they were thinking in their hearts that she's using this really expensive perfume to wash the feet of Jesus, and they didn't like that because they thought, oh, that money could that's just weird to me. But hey, we all have flaws. We all, no one is free of being judgmental. But it is kind of weird how they just immediately thought specifically that could be sold. They saw oil and thought, sell it. Like, it's like, you know, that's a lesson. Judgmental people just want to be judgmental for being judgmental. So don't worry about it when someone judges you. Like, they're just doing it. If they weren't judging on you or pick on you for that thing, they would pick on you for judge you for something else. But I'm not sure if I put a note for it. Let me see here. I'm getting faster at going to my notes. I hope I am. I've had to edit out just me scrolling for like 5 whole minutes trying to find my notes. Okay, I did not have a note for that. I'm not sure why I didn't put a note for that, but so let's just going off thinking about that story. Something he says is, what this woman did for me, it will always be told. And that's cool, because that's true. You always hear the story of the woman who washed Jesus' feet, and now here I am telling it. And it's just cool. I think one verse in the Mark account. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm trying not to be too worried about time, because I just want to let this be real and authentic, but I don't want to be here all night because people are trying to sleep. It's like almost 11 o'clock where I am. I don't know why I went to Mark 8 for some odd reason. Yeah, and they said, why was the waste of the ointment made? And I'm like, you're calling the washing of the guy who's healed the sick people's feet a waste of ointment. That's whatever. And I'm just like, did you not? She used it for its purpose, but anyway. He said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. I'm reading Mark 14:6. For ye have the poor with you always, and whenever ye will, you may do them good. But me ye not have always. She have done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say unto you, whoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also she have done shall be spoken for a memorial of her. So that was Mark 14:6-9. And yeah, don't I think basic lesson to take away from that story is don't judge people if you don't know if you don't really know where their heart's at. If you want to know where someone's heart's at, go and have a conversation with them. Take them out to lunch or something. But getting on track. She was doing her best, and that's all we can do is just do our best. And he was like, look, you can donate to the poor anytime, but I'm only here for a short while. He's like, I'm going to be here like in the next few hours. I'm going to be betrayed, and I guess they still hadn't quite grasped the fact that he was leaving. And that's mostly from Mark's account. I think Luke talked about it too. And I want to go to one thing that I've also haven't talked about is the ideas when Jesus tells them. Let me see the story. And he sendeth, this is Mark 14:13, and he sendeth forth two of his disciples and said unto them, Go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wheresoever he shall go in, see that the good man of the house. The master saith, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will shew you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. They'll make it ready for us. And they did all that, and that was already. And that's something people talk about is, how Christ said it was there, and it was there. Kind of random, but it happened. So trust what Jesus says. What's going to happen is going to happen. And he said, Verily I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me. And they began to be sorrowful, and to say unto him by one, Is it I, is it I, is it I, is it I? And he answered and said unto them, It is one of the 12 that dippeth with me in the dish. So the Son of Man goeth as it is written of him, but woe to that man whom by the Son of Man is betrayed. Good word for that man if he had never been born. This is something that's interesting. And Mark 14 verse 22, I'm going to read to verse 24. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread and blessed and brake it, and gave it to them, and said, Take it, this is my body. And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said to them, This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many. And just that detail right there is, if you think about it, it means a lot. Because in the Bible, blood represents a life. He's saying, my life is being shed for you. And he said, my blood, which is the life, is the New Testament. And I kind of see a lot of Christians on group chats and pulpits and wherever, they have this idea that you either got to go New Testament or Old Testament. But Jesus himself, his life, you don't have to worry about which one's which. Just follow the life of Christ. And And he pointed back to the Old Testament. The most important thing to Jesus was his Father in heaven. That's God. You want to know more about God? Go back into the Old Testament. You want to get a look at God's character? Trust me, read Leviticus. You get a good look at how he feels about certain things. And if you want to get a look about the New Testament, Jesus, you want to say you're a New Testament Christian, do what Jesus did. Do what he said. Turn the other cheek. Be willing to be a slave. Be a servant. Go the extra mile for someone. And I'm not gonna talk like I'm perfect or that I've got all my issues worked out. I'm not gonna just act like I've done everything, but I just felt like talking about that. I just see a lot of people using the term either New Testament or Old Testament to look down on someone else. And it's right here, it's saying that Jesus himself is the New Testament. So when you're saying I'm under the New Testament or that was under the Old Testament, remember you're talking about, you're not talking about a set of laws or a set of doctrine. You're talking about the life that Jesus lived. So let's just keep that perspective. But end of mini rant. Let's get back to the story. Okay, here's interesting. And when they had sung, sorry. I think somebody's trying to, I'm still getting used to being in front of the camera. When I'm alone, I have all these thoughts in my head and everything. But when I'm in front of a camera, it's just like, I feel blank. Or, I don't know, but I'm the same way around people, so it's not like I'm being fake or I'm sorry. Probably save that for a secret moment Christmas tale type or something. But I might edit that out. I might keep that in. I don't know. But anyway, digressing. And when they had sung, I guess I just don't feel the emotion I felt. And that's when I preach. I guess I get nervous or something, and all the emotion goes away. So if I sound dry or anything, or I'm sorry, but I want to keep this going regardless. Pray for my friend Abby, she's sick. And sorry. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Now, let's Mark 14, verse 24. The idea of this picture, the idea of, remember, all this since Mary washed his feet. His death is on his mind, his resurrection on his mind, the fate of his disciples on his mind, the fate of Judas is on his mind. He knows what Judas is going to feel. He knows that Judas is going to feel all this guilt and pain. He knows that Peter's going to betray him. He's going to feel all that guilt and pain. He knows he's going to be separated from his Father because he's going to bear sin, and sin separates us from God. And what makes a song amazing, a good song, you can have these songs with these great lyrics, but if there's no passion behind the voice, then it's just a dry song. It's not that interesting. But can you just imagine the emotion flowed into the vocal cords of Christ when he's singing those hymns? Can you imagine what that sounds like? And I imagine Jesus had a good voice because Jesus was, it's not that he was perfect looking, nor did he have take this with a grain of salt. He didn't have a perfect invulnerable body. Like he was still, he got weary, he cried, he could be physically hurt, but at the same time he wasn't necessarily affected by, I guess, diseases, because he wasn't diseases or anything, because he was formed by an angel, conceived by the Spirit. He was conceived by not an angel. He was conceived by the Holy Spirit. He wasn't created through he wasn't sorry, my eyes. He wasn't created through the usual reproduction process. So I imagine that his vocal cords must have sounded pretty good, because they're not affected by sin or anything, and I'm sure he kept healthy. But can you imagine the overall passion in that voice? All the emotion, all the grief sung in those hymns. Can you imagine can you imagine how that actually must have sounded? It must have sounded amazing. I'm sure the disciples, because one of my favorite singers and this artist is Lin-Manuel Miranda, because he puts passion behind his vocal cords. And can you imagine the emotion he was going through, the agony, the pain, the fear, but still all that, connecting through with God by praising him? You know, the Bible said to delight yourself in the Lord, and one thing that helps with depression is praising God, just because we're meant to praise. But that's another subject for a different video. But just imagine that, how that sounded. It must have sounded amazing. I imagine the disciples just all stopped at one point and looked at him, and just because they still didn't grasp what was going on. So on to verse 27. All ye, they went to the Mount of Olives, and on verse 26, and he said, can you imagine what they were going through while they were walking, what was going through the heads after hearing that song? And he said, all ye shall be offended because of me of this night, for it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. I want to stop at that word, all ye shall be offended, because when we hear the word offended, we feel like, oh, you insulted me, that hurt my feelings, that hurt my character, you look down upon me. But in this situation, they're being chased after or persecuted, because they were, after Jesus dies, they're hiding from the Romans because of fear. And so in this situation, offended might mean something else to Jesus. And this is just a thought, just a thought. I'm not adding or subtracting from the Bible. It's just a thought. Take it with a grain of salt. Maybe when Jesus says people will be, it probably means both, but will be offended when you speak of me. Maybe he means both. Maybe he's saying people who will get offended and be like, oh, you're judging me, or you're a hater. And maybe he's saying people will also be persecuted when you speak about me, or they will turn to me when you speak about them, and they'll have to have sacrifices, or they'll be chased after. But that's just a thought. I might edit that out or anything. I'll probably keep it in. But Peter said unto him, although I shall be offended, also be offended, yet will not I. Okay, so I guess that means that the offended meant abandoning him. And Jesus said, verily I say unto thee, that this day, even though before the cock crowed twice, thou shalt deny me thrice. And that's a detail I didn't realize that Mark added. And I was reading, like, oh wow, so it had to crow thrice, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But he spake more, If I should die with thee, I will deny thee. I will not deny thee anywise. And likewise, they also the same. And they came to a place which was named Gethsemane, and he sat his two disciples and sit here while I shall pray. And he take it with him Peter and James and John, and began to be sore amazed. I'm not sure what that means. Sore amazed? I'm not sure. If you can't hear what I'm saying, my tongue. Just my tongue. Just pray for my tongue. And began to be sore. S-O-R-E. Amazed. I'm not sure what that means. What sore amazed means. And to be very heavy. So I guess just overcome. And he saith unto them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful unto death. Tarry here and watch. That's I want to talk about that too. And somebody said I'm not talking enough, but I'm trying to get my thoughts together. Tarry. Oh, I'm sorry. In the Greek and in the Hebrew, soul means like whenever he breathed the breath. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, then just look it up for yourself. If whatever he mean the breath, it's whenever God made Adam, he breathed and there was the body. So soul is like breath and body. So Jesus was under so much pressure that it was physically killing him. So that's what I'm getting from that verse. And if it means something else to you, or you have a different interpretation of the verse, feel free to share in the comments, but don't be a hater. So what he says, I was sorry. So my soul is sorrowful unto death. It's killing him physically. That's how scared or just grieved he was this was going to happen. There's a lot. Can't begin to imagine what he had to bear. And he went forward a little. Oh, tarry here and watched. He just wanted his disciples to look out for him. He really wanted his disciples to look out for him. Just be there. And we'll discuss that. We'll discuss all that. That idea, that thought in a minute. And he went forward and a little and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what thou wilt. Jesus really, not to discourage anyone and dare have the audacity to say that he didn't want to die for us. But he really did not want to. He was really terrified about this. This is his moment. Scared of the pain, the physical and mental pain. Separation from his father. Probably have the devil saying you can't do it, you're not strong enough. All this agony Christ went through. Just a lot. But he still said, nevertheless, let your will be done. And that probably comforted him, because when God's will gets done, good things happen. So keep that prayer in your mind. You know things aren't going right. Not that we're going through to say, let a cup pass from us, whatever we go through, whatever we're going through, nothing like what Christ had to go through. But keep this idea in mind that even Jesus was scared, but he still did his Father's asked for his Father's will. When we tell God the pain, but give him the choice, that's when a healing process or a patience process begins, because we're still opening up to him, but we're giving him the authority over the problem. And here's what I really want to get into. Let me get into I'm looking for Luke's account situation. I'm sorry, I get nervous whenever I have to scroll. I don't know why. It's not like someone's just staring at me. But are you guys staring at me? Are y'all judging me with y'all's eyes? But I'm sorry. I mean, my mind's I'm having a brain dead moment. I'm in trying to scroll through Matthew's account of the death and resurrection. Something is a specific phrasing I want to bring up. Okay, Matthew 26 verse 40. And he came up unto the disciples and findeth them asleep, and said unto Peter, What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. I'm not sure which temptation Jesus was talking about, but one thing I find very fascinating is when he just says, like Portuguese, like, what? You couldn't watch for 1 hour? See, what I'm getting at is despite the overall betrayal that they were going to have, the fact that they were going to leave him, what seems to hurt Jesus the most, especially in verse 43 when it says, he came and found them asleep again, for the eyes were heavy. What Jesus really wanted, I said, in that moment, he just wanted the disciples to be there for him in his agony. That's so human. He just wanted them to. He just wanted them to be with him for this 1 hour. Just watch him. Just make sure he's okay. And that really hurt him. And just the sorry. Just despite all the betrayal they were gonna run, he wasn't worried about that because that was said to happen in prophecy. And it's like, and one thing I noticed, I wrote this down, is that the prophecies talked about how the sheep would scatter, but to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that they would fall asleep, and I feel like even though it was predicted that they would leave, them going to sleep was kind of on their own conscience, was kind of on their own choice. So always remember, even the disciples made mistakes, and that's when Jesus just shook his head at them. And you read then in verse 45 he said, Then cometh he to his disciples and said unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. And just thinking about that, he says, might as well sleep now. There's nothing you guys can do right now. You had your chance to be with me in my agony. You can't do anything about it now. I'm going. This is it. You might as well just fall asleep now. Go to sleep now. You can't do anything now. And keep in mind, guys, that Christ is coming soon. So don't be asleep. Wake up. Now is the time to be with Jesus. Now is the time to be with Christ. Don't put it off, because you're not going to have this last minute forgiveness of sin when he comes in the clouds. But it's a hard subject. We'll talk about that in a different video. Don't take that as an instant javelin. Boom, you're damned. Just different, totally different, heavy subject, different video. But do not wait. Start your relationship with Christ now. Rise and let us be going. Behold, he is. Maybe we should talk about that now. It's getting a long video, but yeah, don't Don't wait. God is calling you today. He's calling you today, you and me. And it's not going to be easy. Repenting isn't easy, but He can help you through it. Don't put it off. You may not have today, you may not have tomorrow, you may not have another minute. Don't worry about your sins. Don't worry about what you may or may not have done. You're not stupid or anything. You're not what people say you are. You're not worthless. Christ's blood made it worth it. Made you worth it. You were knitted in your mother's womb. You're worth something. I care about you. Jesus cares about you. I love you. Jesus loves you. And He's calling you today. He wants to talk to you. So I guess this is my little appeal. If you want to send left to Christ, to say, God, I surrender all to you. You are my God. Teach me how to repent of my sins. Clean me up inside. Shape me, mold me to your will. Search my heart and know me, O God. Find any wickedness in me and put me on your path. Getting back to the story. I'm very sporadic. Go over the spill leads me, but and 47. And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves, from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whoever I shall kiss, that same is he. He hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Jesus and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? And then came they and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And even at that moment, Jesus called Judas, friend. If you think you've turned away from God and you're too far from God, think about this. I don't care what sin you've made, what sin you committed. At the moment Judas betrayed Christ, he looked at him and called him friend. He didn't call him betrayer. He didn't call him sinner with wrath. He called him friend. God is not angry at you. And if he is, which he's not, he's slow to anger, just to say that somehow he is, he's not angry enough that he doesn't want to talk to you. He wants to talk about it. If you think you committed enough sins that God, Jesus can talk to you, I heard a quote that said, what was it? Saying that you're too dirty to pray, saying that you're too sinful to pray is like saying you're too dirty to shower. If you think that you've done so much wrong, remember, Jesus called Judas his friend as he was betraying him. And he's like, wherefore art thou come? And I think that means, like, do you even know, do you recognize the real reason of what's happened? Do you see you're doing this for the wrong reason? See, Ellen G. White, who I believe was a prophet. If you don't believe she's a prophet, walk into that. But see, I heard it says taken up in vision and saw this moment happen. And I don't think she would call it. She saw this moment happen, and from what I can, she says Judas was under the impression that he was going to betray Christ, and that was going to cause Christ to act on the behalf of having a physical kingdom on earth and starting a rebellion. But Jesus says, and this first supports the idea, Jesus says, where art thou come? Where art thou come? You don't realize the reason why I'm doing it. You don't realize that I'm not here, that your plan is totally backwards, because I'm not here to conquer the world through bloodshed. I'm here to conquer the world through love. This is getting like really long. Thing is, be fulfilled. That thirst must be. Now the chief priest Now the chief priest and elders on the council sought to false witnesses against Jesus, put him to death, but found ye none. Many false witnesses came and found they none. At last 2 false witnesses came. And they said, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it up in 3 days. The high priest arose and said unto him, answerest thou nothing? What is with these witnesses against thee? And I found it in Mark's account, it talks about how the false witnesses came, but the stories didn't add up. So they pretty much, they had no spiritual, I'm sorry, I'm getting comfortable. I'm getting sleepy. They had no spiritual reason to execute Jesus. They had no legal reason to execute Jesus. So spiritually they committed murder. Legally they committed murder because they could not find any reason. The only reason they had was when he said he's the Son of God, and that is the only grounds they had. But remember, Pilate couldn't find a reason to kill him. Neither could Herod, and Herod was the descendant of the guy who tried to kill him. So you know, Pharisees were messing up. I always get sad when I hear that they spit in his face. He did that for me. He did that for you. Because he loves you. Try to keep that in mind when you feel temptation coming on. You want to commit the sin, but remember, Jesus got spit in the face. That's made to make you feel guilty. Those sinners that we should feel sorry for about. But Jesus didn't die for you to feel guilty. But just keep that in mind, you know. If he got spit in the face, you can turn away from sin. I'm not saying easy. I'm not saying you'll be perfect. I'm saying you'll just suddenly stop sinning. It's a work in progress. Okay, I'm trying to, this is 40, I did not plan for a 45-minute video. I'll tell you that. I might chop it up into parts or something. That's going to be fun to edit. And, okay, I want to talk about Peter, his denial. Yeah, I said I was going to talk about this. Let me read Mark. That's an interesting word. Mark's account of denial, because it's interesting, really interesting. Okay. And as Peter was beneath the palace, there cometh one of the maids of the high priest, and when she saw Peter warming himself, she looked upon him and said, and thou also was with Jesus of Nazareth. And so this was the high priestess's maid. So she probably saw Jesus come in when they brought him in. Peter denied, said, I know neither, and I know not neither, understand what thou sayest. So he even said, I've never even heard of Jesus. That's what he's saying. And the cock crew, and my thing is like, I guess he was just so influxated with emotion that he did even, when the rooster crowed, he even stopped to think, oh no, let me stop before I ended up denying him 3 times. But of course, that happens. And it says like when he thou there were very young, he wept. So the moment he heard it, he just started bursting out in tears. Pilate, talk about him for a minute, briefly. You know, Pilate's plan was, okay, I'll save this guy by giving them pretty much the option between an apple and a rotten potato. I'll put up Barabbas for trade and Jesus. But to much to Pilate's surprise, they asked for Barabbas, the rotten potato versus the sweet, nutritious apple. And Pilate's plan was just demolished. And that was, I heard a great sermon. And one of the youth from the church also talked about it, how Barabbas is us being traded in place for Jesus. That's how much he loves us. So think about that. Confess your sins, get close to him. And they beat him with a reed, they mocked him. And I'm gonna just really get through here because this is getting late. But we'll talk about that later. It's getting late. We're gonna go through him giving up the spirit, and when that happened, some people came back from the dead in the veiled torso. I imagine that must have scared Caiaphas. But let's get into his. Let's get into the resurrection. So, oh my God, I'm sorry. Let's get in. This video was not planned to be nearly an hour long, so yeah, I think I'm just gonna talk about the resurrection briefly. Mark's account is when, you know, Mary goes to the tomb. They go to the tomb. They don't see Jesus there. They see an angel. He says, you know, Jesus is risen. The angel looked young in Mark's account. That's a fascinating detail. He is risen from the dead, or they look living among the dead. So they go to look for. Sorry. It says Jesus came to Mary first, who he had casted out 7 demons. So that's crazy. And she went to the disciples, and they don't believe. But Jesus comes up, and he tells them, you know, this was meant to happen. And I guess at that moment it finally clicked in their hearts that what he knew, he meant to say he's coming back. And he tells them before he leaves to preach the gospel in all the world. And preach the gospel, preaching the truth, telling the testimony of Jesus Christ. That's what I guess that's what I've been trying to do. He died for remission of sins, remission of trapped, remission of depression. That's what he's here for. So I'm gonna cut this video now. I know it seems like I'm gonna cut it out of place, but I need to go to bed. You go to bed too. You'll school tomorrow. Have a good night. Subscribe if you want to. Comment. Let me know what your thoughts. Try it. Let me know if you're gonna try it out. Reading the life and the death and resurrection of Jesus before you go to sleep. Listen up before you go to sleep. And remember, you are loved.